A lot of people believe that Dragon Ball Sparking Zero will be over once DLC 3 releases. However, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is still missing many characters in the game. And one of the ultimate examples I can think of a missing roster character is Super 17.
Nobody can beat me when I'm Super 17!
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Now, this is another Dragon Ball Sparking Zero video. I wanted to talk real quick about the post-launch support for the game, because while we don't have a clear roadmap of what the game is going to be like after DLC 3, there are a ton of Dragon Ball characters that didn't get added to the game. And I think I'm going to mention a few characters who are in Tenkaichi 3 first, since Sparking Zero is supposed to be the canon sequel. And the first character I will mention is probably the one that people miss the most from Tenkaichi 3, which is Super 17. Now, Super 17, aside from being, completely unbeatable, is a character that can absorb ki, but unlike Dr. Gero and Android 19, he was very strong. He wasn't a weak character who had the ability to absorb ki. He was a very strong character who had the ability to absorb ki. You can even watch videos of people fighting Super 17 in old Tenkaichi 3 matches, or even watch my Red Potara videos where I fight Super 17 when he's in Red Potara, and he still absorbs ki, which means I'm basically never allowed to use a ki attack on him. He was a crazy character. So Super 17 is a character that people obviously wanted in the game, especially when we knew GT was coming. Now, I think Super 17 is probably the most likely character for the game because his name was in the files for the game, even all the way back at launch. They could easily just make a DLC pack of missing GT characters. A great example would be Nova Shenron, who was in Tenkaichi 3, Ice Shenron, who wasn't in Tenkaichi 3, but he was in Xenoverse 2. And most likely, they could actually end up just adding characters like Legic as well from the, Chasing the Dragon Balls arc. They can add so many characters. They can add the first form of Baby. They probably won't add an older form as a DLC character. I don't imagine they'll do that yet. Maybe when they get really desperate, they'll do that. But yeah, they could definitely end up adding the other Shadow Dragons too. There's a few Shadow Dragons who can actually fight. Some of them would work better as giant characters, like Rage Shenron and Matron Shenron. But I don't think people would be against having Oceanus playable in the game. All in all, Super 17 is just a really beloved character, from his ki absorbing to his laughing maniacally when he would absorb ki, to I'm Super 17, no one can beat me when I'm Super 17, to, shocking Death Ball, which I would love to see how that looks in this game. And his Bullet Storm attack is probably a fan favorite. It's just a character pulling the arm off and just using it like a minigun. That's so absurdly cool. Android 16 had one of those as well, but not in Sparking Zero. So if 17 or Super 17 does end up in the game, I don't think he'll end up having that, which is very tragic. But without further ado, we gotta talk about some of the other characters that they could potentially add to the game. Since we're done with GT characters, again, let me know what other GT characters you think they could add, because I'm sure some of you are going to say Rildo and stuff like that. But since we're all done with GT characters, let's talk about Z characters. Now, the Grey Apes in Sparking Zero are just... There's a lot less of them, alright? We all know in Tenkaichi 3 there was a lot more Grey Apes. We had Nappa, Raditz, Turles Grey Ape. Basically, every single, Saiyan had a Grey Ape form, including Kid Gohan and Kid Goku. They could turn into Grey Apes as well. On night stages, when they had 3, Blast Stock and a higher, which is, the skill counter, they could turn into a Grey Ape. And I think stuff like that was cool. I would like to see these characters get these forms again. Now, maybe the hard part would be making moves for them that are unique, but even in Tenkaichi 3, a lot of the Grey Apes just had very similar looking moves. They had the Mouth Blast, or they just used a giant version of their normal attacks, like Raditz and Nappa, who already have named the move like Giant Storm, but this time as a Grey Ape, I think they could definitely end up doing those, but that's not even all for Z, because Z has so many characters in general that it's just kind of shocking. Like Supreme Kai, again, last game he was properly playable in was Tenkaichi 3. It'd be nice if he could come back as playable in this game. He has a model and everything, so it would just be downright weird to just not make him playable. And with Supreme Kai, obviously, you could add Kibito Kai to the game, and if you don't want to add Kibito Kai, you could just do what Tenkaichi 3 did and just skip straight to Shin Kai, which is Supreme Kai Shin fused with Kibito Kai, so he's Kibito Shin Kai, whatever you want to call it, right? But these are also very easy characters to just add to the game. Just give, Supreme Kai transformation where he fuses with Kibito, and bada bing, your problem solved. You get Supreme Kai finally playable again in a Dragon Ball game, and you get one extra fusion added to the game too, which would be really cool, because I know his combos and super attacks have a bunch of really interesting things in it, like instant transmission. His transmission is his main bag. Give him instant transmission spam, Kai or all those teleporty faster moves in his combos or in the super attack animations, his ultimate attack animations, and people will just love the character forever. And since we're still on the Buu Saga, Yakon and Pui Pui are two characters you could definitely add to the game. Them having team synergy with Babidi would actually be really good too, or maybe even an intro core, but you could easily add Yakon as another ki absorbing character. Yakon might actually even have the rare ability to charge ki, but still be a ki absorbing character like Dr. Gero, Android 19, and hypothetically Super 17 if he was added as well. These are all really easy mechanics and traits to give to these characters, and it would make people definitely want to play them more. Imagine a giant that can absorb ki in this game. That'd be sick. I think everyone would appreciate at least having one character like that. It's good for the game's, I guess, roster as well. Not that the roster is very balanced, but it'd still be good for the roster overall to have something like that. And Pui Pui would definitely end up being a lower DP character who specializes in super fast, long-range super attacks, like Sniper Shot, like he so famously loves to spam in Kakarot. But yeah, you could definitely add these characters, even if they're characters that people didn't end up playing all the time. You have to remember that they still added like multiple costumes of Frieza Soldier, and they added like Ribrianne's friends, which nobody cares about. They didn't add Bergamo's friends, by the way, but we'll get onto Dragon Ball Super afterwards. Let's just finish with the missing characters from DBZ. Hell, they could even do a movie characters DLC where they just add a bunch of movie characters. We still didn't have Turles' Crusher Core, and we don't have Cooler's Squadron, despite the fact that Solza was playable in a lot of Dragon Ball games. I thought Solza was definitely popular enough to make into this one, but apparently not. Very tragic. We don't even have the androids that fuse into Android 13 to make Super 13. We don't have 14 and 15, especially I know a lot of people would want to have them as well, just because they are in the movie. And it would also add more, I guess, depth to 13's character. You can maybe have both of them on a team and have them fuse into Super 13, and if you do it like that, then he'd be way stronger. Just like how if you fuse Goku and Vegeta together, they're way stronger than if you just pick the character at the start. I know people that appreciate that, it'd be very cool, so I would love to see something like that actually implemented into the game. I think a lot of you will agree with me on this one as well, especially Bio Broly. Now, obviously, Bio Broly is the memed one for, you know, being the movie that nobody likes, but you can't deny that Bio Broly being in a playable Dragon Ball console game would be hype. Bio Broly especially because yes, he might not be Broly per se in terms of character, but he's definitely a character with very interesting moves available to him, like his regeneration, his melting slime, his ability to grow giant, you know, his durability, his unique way of firing attacks or using attacks because of his, you know, changed biology. I think a lot of people can agree that Bio Broly would be a valuable character to just have in Sparking Zero, just because he'd be very interesting too. Now, the thing is, both full power Brolys in the game are both 9 DP, and Bio Broly, I don't know if you should make him a 10 DP character or if you should keep him at 9 DP, because 10 DP is absurd. It would also be hilarious because Bio Broly is the one that everyone hates, so him being known in the category of the strongest would be hilarious. But I would like to see Bio Broly actually added to the game as a 9 DP strong character. Maybe if he gets a giant form or if he gets, you know, a kind of big mode, that can then be a 10 DP character. But, you know, Bio Broly he'd be cool to have in the game, and I think we can all agree on that. And hell, maybe if they add Bio Broly, they'll actually be forced to give Krillin a preset that has his hair, because we still didn't have playable Krillin with his hair. I don't know how. I genuinely don't know how. We've got to the stage of Dragon Ball games where Krillin just doesn't have his hair anymore. Xenoverse, Fighters, now Sparking Zero. When will they give my man his hair back? And naturally, Oob. Now you're probably thinking, Steve, Oob's in the game. No, I mean Kid Oob, silly. I think Kid Oob would still be nice to have in the game, even with Big Oob in the game. Kid Oob would still be nice to have in the game in general, because again, he is the End of Z, and maybe when they add Kid Oob, they could also add End of Z Goku. And if End of Z Goku, maybe they could add the End of Z outfit for Vegeta, maybe as a preset for Z Vegeta, or hell, Super Vegeta? That'd be really cool if DBS Vegeta could get the End of Z outfit. And speaking of that, where is GT Vegeta? I feel like we should have definitely got GT Vegeta in the game, even if his moves ended up being simple. Sparking Zero isn't like against making new moves, because Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta, for example, has a well, not Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta, but Super Saiyan 1 Z Vegeta has a unique ultimate attack. And the same thing with Super Saiyan 2 Z Vegeta, actually, where he does the combo into Final Flash. They can easily just tie a few animations together or make a new move, like, you know, just make his ultimate just Final Shine attack. Like, no one's gonna be against that. Oh, but the Super Saiyan 4 uses Final Shine attack. Who cares? Do you know how many Gokus you have that use Super Kamehameha? It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be fine. And you know what? The longer we go on, the longer I realize that there were so many Dragon Ball characters they could add to the game. Again, these ones are kind of very optional because they're not so much fighters. They just exist in the series and sometimes help. But really, we should have got, like, adult Goten and Trunks. That would have been really sick. Now, I would love to say adult Gotenks as well, but Sparking Zero doesn't even really do what ifs that well. So I'm very sure they would mess up adult Gotenks in the game, or they would just never bother to add them, so that's fair, right? But we should have definitely got adult Goten and Trunks. 100%, we should have got them. Maybe we could have even got them in Super Saiyan 2, or if you do a Dragon Ball Heroes, you could give Trunks Super Saiyan 3, which would be very cool. And then, obviously, if possible, we'd love to see adult Gotenks, but most likely that will never happen. So let's move on to the DBS roster. And if there's any Z character that you feel like should be added, also, yeah, let me know in the comment section down below, because I probably missed a few overall. But Sparking Zero, it should at least definitely have every character that was in Tenkaichi 3 minimum, and then just add to that. Now with DBS, there's lots of characters, but most of them are gimmick characters, one-off characters. A good example is almost everyone that appears in a Tournament of Power arc. I'm not saying they should add Tournament of Power characters, like that would be absurd. Please only add the key figures. Otherwise you end up with a really bloated roster that's hard to make it through if you end up adding, you know, anybody who did a single attack in the Tournament of Power. So don't do that. But we could have definitely got Botamo and Magetta as characters 100%. And maybe, honestly, we could have probably got a fusion for them where they just sit on top of the other's head. And maybe that's the first fusion you can defuse from. But if you defuse, the characters obviously just, you know, share half the health. I think that would be a very balanced way to have Botamo and Magetta in the game. They're both just super tanky characters with really high defense, kind of like how Raccoon is in the game. And Raccoon is one of the most glazed characters ever just because his defense is super high and his stats are good and his ultimate attack is great, right? So I think that would have definitely worked if they applied the same logic to the Universe 6 fighters, Botamo and Magetta. That would have, it would have worked. Let's be real, it would have worked. Maybe they could add Tagoma as a skin for Ginyu, and I mean a skin, so that way they don't have to do any new animations. I think that would be nice to have. And speaking of skins, let's be real, Copy Vegeta. Copy Vegeta should have been a skin in this game. I am shocked it didn't happen. Yes, Copy Vegeta is one of the most hated forms of Vegeta, and probably one of the most hated arcs overall in DBS. But I don't imagine it's that hard to just add a slimy-looking texture to Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, or base Vegeta, right? Add a slimy texture to DBS Vegeta, and just give him blue hair when he goes blue. It's very simple to do. I don't think it would have been very hard for them to do at all, and the fans would have appreciated it especially too. Keep in mind, people thought this game was going to come out and have, you know, Gohan Black as a playable character when they saw him, but he didn't. But at least give us Copy Vegeta, for goodness sakes, you know? And yeah, there's not really many super characters I think that would be applicable or valuable as missing characters. If you guys can, let me know. The only other one I can think of is probably definitely DBS Pan. I am shocked DLC 1 released without DBS Pan. To me, that feels like actual nonsense, because in DLC 2, we end up getting Pansy, a character who doesn't fight, but DBS Pan, who does and trains, wasn't added in the... To me, that just feels like such nonsense. I feel like we definitely should have got DBS Pan. The OG Dragon Ball basically has no representation in this game. It's literally just Kid Goku and nothing else. They just gave up after adding Kid Goku, which is very tragic. They could have obviously added Demon King Piccolo. That's a very obvious starting character. He was literally in Tenkaichi 3. They could also add Tambourine or Drum. You can only add one, to be honest. You can leave Drum as a Demon King Piccolo super attack still, just like he was in the last game, since Drum is around for a very short amount of time. He's just there to, you know, be up Tien, and like that's it. Again, Tao Pai Pai is a very obvious character. There was even an IGN message, like before Sparking Zero came out, one of the IGN members ended up saying Tao Pai Pai was in the game, and that was so untrue that Bandai Namco actually came out themselves. It was either Bandai Namco or the Dragon Ball games. In one of the interviews, I think the producer straight up said, no, Tao Pai Pai is not in the game. Like, someone said he was, he's not. We're just going to clarify that now. And I think that's insane that they actually came out to say, yes, a character who was in the previous game will not appear in this game. So obviously with no Tao Pai Pai, you don't get any Cyborg, Tao Eva. And that's just tragic, man. If you don't get Tao, you don't even have the Red Ribbon Army arc, which... And I think the Red Ribbon Army arc is the best OG Dragon Ball arc. I think OG Dragon Ball is worth watching just for that arc. If you know nothing about it, it's so cool, man. Only other characters I can think of adding from original Dragon Ball would probably be maybe a few like Nam. We do know that Nam had a move represented in Xenoverse 2, and he was in Tenkaichi 3, but yeah, apparently that's not good enough for being added into Sparking Zero. Who would have thought? That's kind of, it's a wee bit tragic, very tragic for Nam. There's just so many missing characters in general in this game. I genuinely thought that we were going to get like an OG Dragon Ball version of Piccolo Jr. and Teen Goku. Because when they added Goku to the game and he didn't have Meteor combination, you know, one of his most iconic moves, a move so iconic they put it on Goku mid, just so that way you could have Super Saiyan Goku and Meteor combination in the exact same character in Tenkaichi 3. I was thinking, okay, for sure, we're going to get, you know, OG Dragon Ball versions of Goku and Piccolo. We didn't. I'm surprised. We don't get a Piccolo that turns into a giant. You know, we don't get his super explosive wave as his ultimate attack or any of his other unique moves, like a surprise, like, you know, beam that he uses to disable the opponent's limbs while he goes for a finishing blast attack, right? We don't get any of that as a move for this guy. We don't get any, again, Goku's Meteor combination, his first super Kamehameha, his feet Kamehameha, you know, his headbutt move as a last resort. None of that in the game. We could have even got like Chi-Chi. I mean, she would have definitely been like a 1 or 2 DP character. But we could have got Chi-Chi from that tournament as well. And I think people would have liked that because having Chi-Chi be a playable character in a Dragon Ball game would actually be sick. And I'm not talking about Kid Chi-Chi. I know Kid Chi-Chi was in Tenkaichi 3, but I'm going to be honest, I don't give a damn about Kid Chi-Chi. Give me the actual Chi-Chi, alright? Like if they do add Kid Chi-Chi, easily to replace her Ki Blast, you can have her use the head beam on her helmet or the boomerang on her helmet. And with adult Chi-Chi, you can just have her use the Bancho Fan. The same way all these other characters like Yajirobe, Trunks, Goku Black, they all just like slash waves at you. Or how UI Goku like does air punches. Yeah, easy. There's an easy key blast for Chi-Chi. And I don't know, man. Sparking Zero really should have had more characters in it. I'm not saying it should have a ginormous roster, because it kind of already does. It's just that all of those characters feel so empty, and then there's also so little to do with that roster. But if we did have stuff like survival mode in the game, Mission 100 in the game, the dating sim in the game, all these other like different modes, you could actually utilize a ginormous roster effectively. But now the game just doesn't even have all the characters that people want in it. Again, examples are like Super 17, and then it's also lacking content, so that hurts quite a bit. And honestly, again, I think that's a good place to end the video. You guys let me know what other Dragon Ball characters you think should be added, obviously, if they do end up doing missing character packs. Maybe a GT character pack, an OG Dragon Ball character pack, a Z character pack, you know, maybe even a God of Destruction character pack where we actually get Champa playable in Sparking Zero, because he's been playable in Xenoverse 2, and Vados is also playable as well. So it's not like there's like an ND saying, oh, you can't make these characters playable because they don't fight in the show. It's like, no, you can make them playable, because Xenoverse 2 didn't go away with it, so you can do that here in this game as well. For God's sakes, even Belmont is playable in Xenoverse 2 now, so you can definitely make way more playable Sparking Zero characters. It's not like there's a rule saying that they can't do it like with the manga characters or something like that, right? But I do love you all, and I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, then obviously again, please leave a like in the video, and don't forget to grab the Grilly Support channel and leave a comment down below as to what you'd like to see next, fellas. I do love you all, again. Hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time. Take care, and peace.